All right, guys, welcome, 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 welcome. All right, let me get this presentation pulled up for us. Cool. All right, we have the Q&A pulled up here if anybody needs to ask any questions throughout this presentation. All right, just got some familiar faces in here. How many people did we have registered for today? Let's see. 266 registrations for today's webinar. All right. And then chat. I got the chat up here. Okie dokie. All right. So I'm gonna get started today. Wasn't one last week just because I do the announcements and all the marketing on Monday and it was the holiday and I just figured we'd take a little week off. But we're back and there's a lot of stuff happening. Um, we have Opus 4.8 that came out and I mean, backstory on this, if you guys want to know like what all of the kind of fusses about it and why they came out so quickly after 4.7. The story is for Opus 4.7 came out from Anthropic, and then ChatGPT released ChatGPT 5.5, and then 5.5 scored a little bit higher and Anthropic couldn't handle that, so they went and released Opus 4.8, which is just a little bit higher now than 5.5. So it's just a constant like arms race between the two. Um, so the main thing with 4.8 that we're going to be talking about today is how it applies to the construction documentation area. It's not really a huge advancement as far as reading plans, being able to spatially recognize where things are on drawings, stuff like that. So yeah, let's jump right in. Today might be a little bit shorter. If you want my honest opinion, the TLDR. Otherwise, the too long didn't read. So, like a quick summary is basically Opus 4.8 is marginally better, but there's some very specific things about construction documentation that have that benefit construction based on the marginal improvements that they did. Again, it was just a way to get a leg up on ChatGPT 5.5. So really what we're looking at here, and I'm actually building out a custom AI solution for a construction company today, is we're looking at the hidden cost of manual processes. They put together a big long list of administrative tasks that they want to get rid of inside their organization. And what that means is not, they told me like they don't want to fire people, they don't want to reduce headcount, but they want to just remove all the drudgery, the copy and paste, the saving the files, the whatever it is that their organization is doing every single day. So they put together a spreadsheet, and I had them put together a spreadsheet with a few different columns. I said, put together a spreadsheet with the actual task, the item that they need to do. And then I said, put two columns next to that task that says, how much time does it take to do that task? And how much value to the organization does that task provide? And if you sort this very clearly and easily, you'll be able to see very laborious tasks that provide very minimal value to the organization. And those are the things that I tell them to tackle first. It just is a lot of clicks, it's a lot of downloading. We all know what that is in our weekly to-do list. And it's a lot of clicks and a lot of downloading, and you're like, it's just like admin. It doesn't it doesn't produce more value for the organization. It's just for like our internal records or whatever it is. So with that being said, um, we had them put that list together. It pointed out three very clear items that we were like, okay, these take a lot of work and they don't bring more value to the organization. They do not make us more money. They're clearly administrative. Now, once we defined those three, we picked one of the three And now what you needed to do is you needed to break it down into little bite-sized chunks. So subtasks, or what is your SOP, your standard operating procedure behind this? And many construction firms rely on those outdated manual systems right now. Like I was mentioning, all of these like little sub items for critical administrative tasks. You need to do this stuff, but it's not something, sometimes it might fall by the wayside. Sometimes we might wait 3 weeks to do it just because we're too busy. So all of those things into consideration we need to look at when we're deciding what to do. And when you have all those subtasks and that standard operating procedure, that's when you're ready to start building with AI. So I wanted to just bring these stats up here, just because they're important to know. And if you guys are in this webinar, you're probably that top 1% of AI users in construction. But you're far ahead of most people, even if you're using ChatGPT Basic. One stat that I heard of was out of all of the users that have used ChatGPT, which is arguably, I mean, Anthropic's bigger now, but I think it's with power users. Um, Only 2% of people are using it on a paid plan, meaning 98% of people using AI chat are using it in like its free state, which is basically just a fancy Google search or something that just answers you on a really basic level. They're not using it to get any work done. They're using it almost as like a little chat icon, right? 61% of firms using or plan are planning to invest more into AI. 38% are seeing measurable results, they're saying. 45% are having AI pointed at specifically office and admin work, which makes a lot of sense in construction because anything that's on the job site, we don't got robots yet. Elon's working on that for us. So the AI leverage gap. So most firms are using AI like a smarter Google, like I mentioned, the 98% of people out there in the world. The greatest opportunity lies in the repetitive rule-based back office tasks. And the primary blocker is that 57% of firms are having a lack of trust in the AI output accuracy. So that's one thing that I'm going to reference here on the Opus 4.8 upgrade is the accuracy stats, which we'll get to in just a second. But I'll also say that accuracy problems in the construction industry, from my experience of people I've met with and talked with as part of our AI community, is they just don't have enough context. So you ask it a question, you ask it to respond to an RFI. There's a lot of things that need to be given to an AI to properly respond to an RFI, for example. And what we need to be aware of is a lot of people don't know how to preload all of that project context into an AI system to get the best answer. So, what we really need to be focusing on is building up that trust with these internal stakeholders, these internal company players that essentially like allow people to use it more. Because right now, if nobody trusts it, no one's ever going to use it, right? And it can be trusted. You just have to give it enough information and give it enough pre-information, you could call it, or context, in other words, to make it accurate and make it valuable. All right, so let's talk about what we're all here for today. That is Opus 4.8. If you're a Claude subscriber, you're likely already using this. So this was released last week. It has a 1 million token context window by default. And if you guys are not familiar with what this means, this just means that it can process a lot more information every time you chat with it. So if you guys haven't understood yet, AI has a short-term memory loss problem. And what I mean by that is it every time it answers you, it needs to reference all of its chat history, all of the documentation you've given it, every time you answer or every time you ask it a question. So it needs to basically understand everything, analyze everything, and then it will answer you, right? But what happens when you've been chatting for too long? What happens when you uploaded too many documents? That's when it starts to have those short-term memory loss problems. It can't remember everything every time it answers you. So it starts making things up. And when it makes things up, we start calling that hallucination. So to prevent AI from hallucinating has been a massive problem that all of these models have continued to try to solve. And with Opus 4.8, we're seeing a huge step in the right direction by having this 1 million token context window by default for massive data intake. And what is a token context window? Sounds really nerdy. A token context nerdy or a token context when nerdy. Token context window is basically all down to tokens. And a token could be considered a character, right? So the word the, for example, has three tokens, right? A space is a token. And so you continue to consume all these tokens. The more you chatted with it, the more it answered you, the more documentation you gave it. So having 1 million characters is the easiest way to like mentally understand this. Having 1 million characters gives you quite a lot of, previous history. And before, some of this stuff has so much project data with so many moving parts, that it would just run out of context and it just really wouldn't be useful, right? So now we have a larger context window. We still have short-term memory loss, but we can remember for 3 days compared to 1 day, right? So just keeping that in mind, there's unfortunately like not a really easy way to understand when you're approaching the context window when you're in a normal chat function. I wish that these AI systems would tell you that, I mean, Anthropic does it a little bit. And what Anthropic does is when it hits the context window, it will tell you it's compressing and summarizing the conversation. But with summaries, you might lose out on some critical project information that would cause a hallucination. So um, that is one thing that I wish that we could see easier when we're working inside of these AI systems, when we're hitting our context window, when we're running out of reference points, or when it has to forget about certain details, and what details is it sacrificing. All right, so the new fast mode delivers 2.5 times faster responses, but there is a caveat here. So I would not recommend going and using this 2.5 this fast mode, unless it's like you want it to respond to an email. Like in my opinion, I don't think that AI takes too long to answer me without fast mode. I think that I would rather have it think for an extra 3 seconds and give me a 10x better result than putting it in fast mode. Fast mode, you're going to sacrifice things. It's like everything in construction. If you want it done right, it might not be the fastest. If you want it done fast, it might not be right. So that's the same thing applies here. There's sacrifices happening in the brain, in the thought process for you to get these answers faster. So there's that. Dynamic workflows enabled hundreds of agents to work in parallel. This is probably the biggest update that we saw. So workflows are getting into like the standard operating procedures of a company, which is what I started out this presentation with, right? We talked about the different processes in a company. We talked about what they should prioritize, those low value, high admin work type of tasks. And what 4.8 released is workflows, and multiple agent work was already happening with Opus 4.7, but now they've taken it, I guess, and put it on steroids is the best way to describe it. So workflows are this kind of way where you can build out that standard operating procedure. And in the previous versions of like Opus 4.7, it might spin up two, maybe three agents, right? But now it's like spinning up hundreds. And if you guys hadn't come to all of my webinars in the past, I did do a webinar on like agent swarms. So when we're talking about agents, you're going to see one single chat interface, right? Or you're in Claude Cowork, you're in Claude Code, whatever it is. You're seeing one place here. But what Anthropic is doing on the back end usually is to get the work done faster, it's spinning up multiple little AI agents to go get things done. So if you say, what is the best route to take if I'm going to drive across the United States? It'll dispatch and spin up maybe five agents, all doing different Google searches around this. And that way it's getting work done faster. It's getting work done accurately because now if it can split up the to-dos, guess what? Each agent has their own context window, and each context window will do better results because it's not going to have to put everything into one. So then they report back to this like main agent, right? So that's like sub agents like working in parallel. So there's a very different philosophy around parallel, like they don't touch, they don't intersect, right? And agent swarms or agent teams. Agent teams might have, let's say, 10, but an agent team, the team members are all talking to each other all the time, and they build their own messaging system, and they're asking each other questions. I'm working on this, you're working on that. What did you find over there? Oh, I found this. Okay, that'll help me. I think I should share this with you. And they're constantly collaborating, but there's still like a project manager agent up at the top, right? So that's the same across both. But parallel agents and agent teams are very different. Um, in terms of getting the most bang for your buck, I think that parallel agents is all you guys need. Agent teams are cool and they're really fun to do, but it will eat up all of your Claude usage probably in like 20 minutes for the whole week. So unless you're building something extremely complex, I mean, I've used it a couple of times to experiment with it, but it's almost not needed at this point in time. All right. Four times less likely to let a flaw slip through. So this is increasing its um, kind of like ability to catch itself in errors. So if you ask it to go update an Excel sheet, you ask it to go update something in an Excel sheet, you ask it to basically analyze a certificate of insurance in a Cord 25 form against your company standards. It's going to be four times less likely to kind of make an error compared to 4.7. So it's a huge improvement. I thought it would be worth putting in here in the slide. Okay, so arguably the biggest unlock here, and I think we talked about this in pretty good depth on the previous slide, but reviewing entire contracts, including all the exhibits, change orders in memory at once, so it does not forget it. It can handle it all in the 1 million token context window. Eliminating chunking, compare original versus every change order in a single pass. So chunking is a term that we use in AI development. We do it in Contracts Connected because when we need to store, let's say we have a construction company that's issued, I don't know, maybe 100,000 plus documents out of Contracts Connected. And our AI system has generated those documents. It's tracking them, it's filing them away. And now we want to create an agentic brain off of all of the contracts we've ever issued. We want to be able to ask it any question about expiring certificates of insurance coming up. We want to ask it any questions about, what subcontractors have seen and received and what they haven't. So we need to create like a database, right? And this database needs to be what we call Markdown, which is just simple text. So we're not storing documents, and AI is not going to be able to read that PDF every single time. It just takes too much work for it to read a PDF. So we want it to read it once and then save it. And what we do is we chunk these documents, and chunking is just what it sounds like. All right, first 50 lines, that's chunk one. Second 50 lines, that's chunk two. And that way we can store these documents in their plain text modes in a database. So then when AI wants to interact with them, we've created a what's called a vector database for every single one of our users and for every single one of their documents. So they have like super intelligence across all of their contracts and their compliance, right? So that's what chunking is. Chunking is just breaking up these documents in little bite-sized pieces so we can reference it later on, understand what document we need to pull in more details on, and then dive in from there. So with this Opus 4.8, it doesn't need to chunk, up to that million context window like it did before. Um, does that mean that it can handle 100,000 documents? No. No, no, no. So like things like what we've built at Contracts Connected, it's just not there yet where we need to continue to chunk these documents to create this super intelligence for our users, right? Um, all right, and then quickly identify liability shifts, insurance requirements, changes, and payment term adjustments. So this is all kind of like that contract review tool, that AI contract review tool that I built in a previous webinar with you guys. This is just going to be able to do that a lot better because it's going to be able to understand the document in its full context rather than having it in a kind of like a summary form or a chunked form. And feel free, guys, ask any questions in the question and answer section of this webinar. Again, this time is for you. I know all this stuff, so I do this just for you guys. All right. So autonomous agents running your processes. And now this is what I'm actually having a meeting later this afternoon with the company to build out an autonomous agent for their entire organization. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, they identified all of the admin tasks in their organization. They identified the biggest lifts, and then they identified the ones that have the least amount of value. And now we are building out the very first autonomous agent for them. So this is basically going to be powered by Opus 4.8 is how I'm building it for them. Reliable tool triggering, so agents reliably take actions without skipping steps. This is basically really important for like different processes inside of construction companies. So what we're going to be tackling first is the creation, issuing, tracking of contract packages. Now, there will be proper human approval throughout this process by using Contracts Connected, and the agent's going to be leveraging Contracts Connected to accomplish these things. But these agents need to be reliable and they need to follow standard operating procedures every single time. So, with that, we need to basically leverage these new models. And Opus 4.8 is a little bit more reliable as far as being able to follow these kind of instructions, just because it's going to be able to reference all the instructions and have it in its full context window at that 1 million context token context. All right, dynamic workflows. So workflows are everything. Everything that we do in our day-to-day lives is somewhat of a workflow, right? I need to send an email. That's a workflow, right? As simple as that is, you're going to your inbox, you're clicking compose, you put in the to, you put in the CC, you put in the subject, you write hi name, you write the email body, you do this, and then you hit send. And that is a workflow. As simple as it is everything can be broken down into these workflows. And with Opus 4.8, they've really doubled down on this and having agents be able to follow some sort of standard operating procedure. And also, it's starting to be able to use common sense a little bit more. So you're not seeing the need to build out these like step one, do this, cut it off. Step two, do this, cut it off. It's like to send an email, here are the 7 steps, go knock yourself out. One important thing to do if you guys are going to try this yourself is don't give it a super complex thing, like processing a batch of invoices. Let it do one step at a time. Don't have it like process 100 and have 100 steps. Have it batch all 100 invoices in the first step by, reading the email, downloading the attachment, and filing it away. Great. Okay, once it's filed away, open the PDF and gather the information, the vendor, the amount, the date submitted, and enter it into our accounting system. That's step two. So those are different steps that have multiple kind of like mini steps, and you would call each one of those workflow, and you would tie it all together as one larger workflow. By breaking them up into like these mini workflows, you're able to troubleshoot. I see so many people come in in our AI community for construction, they're like, "Oh, I tried this for hours. It didn't work. I don't trust it. It's not going to ever work for me. It's just not there yet." But they tried to like give it this like standard operating procedure that's like 100 steps long and has like all these edge cases that they didn't train it for. So by breaking these down and building these mini workflows, you're able to find where it's falling apart, and you're able to quickly address that. And then you're able to like move very quickly and troubleshoot and get these things dialed in. Adaptive thinking. So one thing that it's starting to change is like low, medium, high kind of thought processes. I typically keep mine on like high. Um, some people want to leverage it for like low and stuff, but I just rather have like the full brain power at all given times, rather than trying to like I don't know, choose when it should be low, and then it gives me a bad answer, and then I spend more time just like trying to get the answer to be better. I would just recommend for everybody here just to leverage this high critical thinking. Gradual autonomy. All right. This is what I was talking about with the construction company I'm meeting with today. Well, that we're building out this AI agent for. Deploy agents on an autonomy ladder, building trust rung by rung by rung. I don't know why I wrote it like that for specific jobs, but essentially what this is meaning is um, take it step by step. Don't try to automate the entire world all up front. You want to make sure that you're seeing success, you're getting buy-in from the team, because with organizations such as construction, you guys have been doing the same thing for quite a long time with the same team, and to switch things up halfway through a project, for example, is not an easy feat. So I want to just make it clear again, this you'll hear me all the time say step by step, step by step, step by step, because the one way to fail with AI is trying to do too much too soon. It's capable of a lot, it's really exciting, it's powerful, but the people that are successful are willing to crawl before they walk, before they run. Okay. So these different areas of the back office is one thing that I picked out for today's kind of like examples, but this could be really applied to any area of construction. Project managers have a lot of stuff going on. Junior project managers are just responding to RFIs all day long. And each one of these positions have workflows that they can then bake into like Opus 4.8 helped kind of environment, right? So one of the main things, if you guys are in the federal world, I know not everybody here is, but certified payroll. So all of these people, there's sometimes these larger organizations have a full-time dedicated employee per project sitting in the project trailer analyzing certified payroll submitted by vendors. And it's just the craziest labor, like most labor intensive, like manual task I've ever seen. And we at Contracts Connected are basically we have in beta right now with some users a certified payroll AI agent. So the certified payroll is dropped in, and AI basically is pre-trained on everything about the certified payrolls and the vendors to be able to give the person reviewing is like a green, yellow, or red light is what we call it. So when you're building out these workflows, you don't need to go so far as to say this needs to make the final decision. What we do is we basically have it do all of the work, come up with the decision, but we display that decision to a user or a person at the company. Then that person at the company makes that final decision of, yep, this is good, or nope, this is not good, right? So that is one example. Then you have submittals, cross-checking against specs, flagging for missing information. This can be if you build out the correct workflow, kind of like a drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop. Then you have vendor onboarding, so screen the entire pre-qual package in under an hour, verifying compliance and documentation. So basically training the workflow on what you guys want to have for every vendor and the edge cases of when you'll make exceptions, and then having it again doesn't have to be that final say, but it could be that, decision that helps you make that final say in a matter of seconds rather than a matter of hours. All right. So, like I said, 4.8 was like a good improvement for a lot of reasons, but it was an improvement. It wasn't like game changing. Now, Mythos is coming out. Mythos is going to be released, which they originally said that they were not going to release to the public because it was too powerful, right? I don't think that they're going to release the full power of Mythos to the general population like us, but they are working on getting us a version of it. And just so you guys know, Anthropic has been really good about their marketing, and their marketing has always been, "Oh no, we made something too powerful and too good. It did this crazy thing because it's just too smart." And it's a way for them to say like they're really good about creating marketing stunts where it's like they made a mistake, but their mistake was making something too good. So it's just crazy marketing and it's kind of smart, but that's what they did with Mythos. So Mythos, they said that they could not release to the public because it would be too powerful and people would be able to hack all the banks in the world and the financial economy would just collapse. And whether that's true or not, who knows? But they said that they were going to release Mythos to cybersecurity firms first and allow the cybersecurity world to basically build up the security infrastructure so Mythos could not hack into it. Um, whether all that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what Anthropic says. So, but if we're talking Opus 4.8, it's a step in the right direction. Opus 4.8 does address the core pain points of, admin work. I think it's there to be fully intelligent. I don't think Mythos is needed for you guys to automate like 50% at least of your workday as far as like this workload goes. The 1 million context window enables comprehensive one-pass contract and document review. Reliable, unsupervised agents mean repetitive administrative tasks can run autonomously. Opus 4.8 is intelligent enough. I don't think Opus 4.6 was. But Opus 4.7 certainly was, and Opus 4.8 certainly is able to build out these more autonomous styles of working. I do recommend again start with one bounded job like COI tracking to prove value quickly inside your organization, build the trust, and then use it as a foundation to build building blocks on top of. That's how I'm approaching this custom build for this. I'm building an AI employee for them at the end of the day. I'm building a project coordinator, a contract administrator type of person for them, fully autonomous, and it's going to communicate with their team over email and then run its own computer with its own email inbox. And we're taking this one step at a time. They came to me with a list of like 50 administrative tasks that they wanted to get done, and I said, okay, we got to take this step by step, block by block. And number one is going to be, let's pick the most painful process that just does not provide value to the organization, but we have to do it. And let's automate that. So we're going through all of these clicks and stuff that they now take to build out a contract package. And yeah, I think that's a great starting point. And the quickest way to fail with this is going to be to try to do too much too soon. All right. So the Q&A, I put some common questions in here that you guys are probably wondering and thinking. I don't see any questions in the Q&A right now, so I'm going to dive into these ones first. And if you guys have any while I'm diving into these ones, let me know. So data security is always the number one thing that I get asked when I'm talking to a construction company about AI. Enterprise tiers and private environments protect sensitive information with start and read only functions. And this is basically You get to pick when you give it access, what you give it access to. You get to pick when you give it access, what it can do within that access. So there's three levels of access. There is read only, needs approval, and they call it dangerously allow. So with read only, that's obvious. With needs approval, it will ask, and you have to click a button every single time you want it to take an action. And then dangerously allow is exactly what it sounds like, right? So you're going to just let that puppy rip and you're just going to let it go click around and do whatever it wants at any given time. It does not have to ask you and it could delete things, right? So I think in the beginning, request access is good. Otherwise, if you know it doesn't need to take any action in that, server or something, you could put it as read only. Technical skills. Do I need to be a coder to do everything that you're talking about, Zach? Absolutely not. Most day one applications are drag and drop with plain English instructions. There's also a wealth of information on YouTube, but I am also very motivated to just make trainings that you guys care about, but you guys have to tell me what those trainings are. What do you want to build? What do you want to accomplish? I will build it right in front of you and give it to you after this webinar. So be selfish and ask me because I will go do that research. I will get on a meeting with you. We will build it out. We will talk about it on this webinar and I'll just give it to you afterwards. So I'm here to provide value as much as I can. But sometimes, people got to ask for it because I can't read minds sometimes. All right. So accuracy and compliance. Trust like a sharp new hire, right? So AI performs the first pass, human reviews the exceptions. This is what I talked about with the weekly certified payroll or the certificate of insurance analysis that we have currently live in Contracts Connected. We do all of the heavy lifting around what this document is, what is the company's requirements, what need to be checked, what's best practices for the entire industry around this form, but we do not let it take action on whether that document should be rejected or approved. What we do is we give it a green, yellow, or red light. And what green means is we didn't find anything wrong. What yellow means is, hey, we found something that might not be wrong, but we wanted to flag it for you. And what red means is, hey, you probably shouldn't approve this unless you want to make an exception, right? So that work is all happening, and I suggest you guys build the same. Human in the loop is the way to go for now, especially when you're building trust in your organization. It's a way for you to roll out AI into these systems without having to like put your, entire livelihood on it. It's like, yeah, let's have it do some work for us, but we're still going to have control. We're still going to be the ones making that final decision. All right. Cost significantly less than the labor it replaces with model usage in the tens of dollars per month. So what I recommend is if you're going to build out any agentic stuff at all, $200 a month for the 20x max plan. Arguably, it's basically unlimited usage. Like it is a challenge to use all of your usage every month or every week with that 20x max plan on Claude. It is the best deal that we will ever see from at least in the near future. And I don't expect them to keep it around forever. So if you have it and you want to take advantage of it, 200 bucks a month, it's pennies in comparison to the value that you're getting. If you were to sign up for like one of their starter plans, for example, like $20 a month. Integrations. So, you can integrate into all kinds of companies and logins, but you can also give it what's called an MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol. And an MCP is basically a special tool that it gets access to. And this special tool is, for example, like you give it the power to go use a browser on its own, and that's called Firecrawl or Playwright, right? So those are two MCPs that Claude can use. That now you have a browser, and now with that browser, it can go log into things like Procore or MyCOI or GCPay or whatever you guys use, Contracts Connected, and it's able to integrate without having to pay for these crazy expensive integrations. It's just nonsense, in my opinion sometimes in construction, how much you guys have to pay for integrations. So that was the overarching kind of topic today. I know I didn't take up the full hour. I put in the webinar agenda that I was going to leave about 15 minutes to answer any questions. So even if it's not about Opus 4.8, if it's about AI in general, if it's about where to start, let's have a conversation. Otherwise, this is Opus 4.8. I didn't want to take up the full hour just with like nonsense slides, because again, I thought that Opus 4.8 was just an answer to ChatGPT's 5.5. It wasn't necessarily something that was going to like change our lives, but Mythos certainly has the capability to. And I told you guys a little bit about that and all the drama that they're saying that, it's too powerful, it's too good. But yeah. So I'm gonna watch the Q&A here. In other news, if you guys haven't checked us out yet, we have some really crazy things that we're releasing at Contracts Connected, like this. We're building out AI agents that are fully autonomous employees for companies that do all admin paperwork. And that's what I mentioned to you guys that I'm building out for somebody right now. It's our second one actually that we've rolled out, and the first one's been such a good success that this other company really wanted to do it as well. And then we also have things like certified payroll being analyzed by AI. We have scope writing being able to start now generating libraries of AI clauses. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. We're tackling the entire back office end to end, change orders, redlining. Like we have red lines fully built out in our platform now, which was something that we worked on for 8 months. So here we go. This is like a little video, but essentially this is all happening inside of your contracts connected environment now. So it's like track changes, but it's online because right now the way that Redlines works is like you guys email or DocuSign an agreement over, and then someone needs to redline it, and now you're like taking it out of the DocuSign, and now it's like the PDF's marked up, but now we're sending it back and forth over email, but now we're like getting on a phone call, and there's no like who approved what, why did we approve that? Or why did they even request that? What risk does that present to us? Why are we approving this? Like all of that stuff. And then when you finish it, you have to make all those manual tweaks and then re-upload it to DocuSign again. And our platform does the, e-signature, it sends it off to the subcontractor. They get to redline it. You get to approve, reject, and then it automatically sends it a finalized version back to the subcontractor with the click of a button instead of having to, go manually create all that stuff again. So um, pretty cool technology, and we've had some really great feedback on it. So we're excited to see it continue to grow and evolve. We have some insights coming along here as well. But yeah, I'm watching the Q&A, but everyone seems to be shy this week. If there's any topics also, just feel free to put them in the Q&A. But other than that, I'm not going to take up all your guys' time. If nobody has any questions or if nobody's working on anything that they want to chat about in here or want me to show or a topic for me to dive into. So if something doesn't come in within the next 2 minutes here, I might just pop off this webinar a little bit early. If you guys want to have a chat with me, it's like a one-on-one type of chat and hear about what we're building for these other companies. I kind of take a free-flowing approach. You guys can probably tell I'm pretty laid back from these webinars, and if some of you guys have probably watched me in here, this is my 33rd one, so you've probably watched me over 24 hours worth of webinars if you've come to enough of them. Um, just booking a time. Let's have a chat. I'm open to it. I love chatting with people in the industry. My co-founder joins in on them sometimes. He's the construction guy between us. I'm the tech guy between us. But I've been living the construction life now for like 3 years, which is nothing in comparison to some of the veterans out there. But I feel like I've learned a whole nother language, and a whole nother culture and a whole nother country just learning how construction operates. So it's fun. I like it, and I'm just excited to continue building. We have some really exciting partnerships that we're releasing out in the coming months here as well, and some new secret features that we can't go public with yet, but we're trying to push out here in the coming months as well. All right. Um, I think I've been rambling here for quite a little bit now. Still nothing in the Q&A. We got a good amount of people in here, but I think I'm gonna let you guys go early today if nobody has any. Next week, I will be announcing on Monday what the presentation will be for Tuesday. So just keep an eye on your inbox, keep an eye on LinkedIn, and I would love to see you guys kind of on the calendar here and able to talk more about some AI in the back office, AI in construction in general. And yeah, hope you guys got some value out of today and I will talk to you next week.